Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, Crazy Lady claimed to be the former owner of my truck. Update to Crazy Lady being the former owner of my truck. Entitled coworker finally got his due. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Crazy Lady claimed to be the former owner of my truck. The state I live in has crazy entitled people pretty much everywhere. So this crap doesn't surprise me at all since I've seen it enough times in my life to become indifferent to it. But it's amusing to talk about it. So I'll tell it here. Though the first part isn't so amusing. In 2020, I lost my home in a wildfire and was only left with whatever I could pack up in a Ford Focus during the evacuation. I was renting a basement apartment in a country house, and most of my stuff went up in flames. I realized that my car may get good gas mileage, but it's not gonna hold a lot of stuff. Or tow anything. My landlord evacuated his family in a big GMC truck with a fifth-wheel trailer. He had everything he needed from emergency food storage to backup vehicles. His wife drove another truck out fully loaded with a trailer full of their stuff. They had everything they needed to survive and more. That made me realize that I needed to be better prepared. I had to couch surf for a while, and I could never stay in one place for long because I was a guest and not a tenant. So I ended up living out of a tent in a field with several other people who'd also lost their homes to the fires. It was like a tent village set up by a local charity. The shelters were beyond full. And it's a warm climate. So tents were the next best way to go considering the situation at the time. I managed to get a used but decent-sized tent and basically furnished it like a tiny apartment with a cot, small table, and some chairs. I even housed a poker night in it a few times. Though I tried to make sure I didn't leave anything worth stealing in it when I went to work. I was still going to work almost every day, and even volunteering for extra shifts. I was saving money since I wasn't paying rent living the tent life. And I made up my mind to keep saving to one day buy a truck of my own. Because if this situation with the wildfires or some other disaster ever happened again, I need to be better prepared. Move on to just a few months ago. I put down over a year's worth of savings to buy a used Chevy Silverado 1500 with a canopy already on it. It's got a few dents and a big diagonal scratch across the hood. And the paint is a bit weather-worn. But so what, it had a good bit less than 100,000 miles on it, and a list of recent repairs that included a new radiator. I'd spent a year living as cheaply as possible to save as much as possible. I wanted a truck and a camp trailer in case the fires ever come back. Some people have tried to call me a hoarder for picking up stuff off the side of the road and using it. But I don't keep all that stuff at my apartment. In fact, I keep almost minimal furniture. Some remark that my apartment looks like it was just moved into, as I still keep some of my stuff packed in boxes. I want to be able to pack and leave fast if I have to. Especially since the world only seems to be getting worse right now. I bought the truck, an ironically silver Silverado. I bought it off a man who looked to be in his 50s that said he has a bad back and can't use it anymore. And he gave me a steal of a deal when I came to get it by dropping the price by $1,000 because he felt I was clearly in love with it. And I am. I'm very happy with the truck. She drives like a dream. A big heavy dream, but still a dream. And she was clearly underdriven by the previous owner, as it's still not at 100,000 miles. I still kept my old Ford Focus though, that way my fuel costs won't skyrocket. Now let's go to what happened a few weeks after I bought the truck. I was out in the same general area I bought the truck in to look at a used camp trailer that I was possibly interested in buying. But it ended up being in such bad shape that I turned it down because it was beyond my skills to repair. Before leaving the town, I stopped to eat at a local diner. Great burgers there, by the way. And as I was leaving after having dinner, I noticed a woman who looked to be somewhere in her 40s looking over my truck. I'm not gonna use the term Karen to describe this person because I know two women named Karen, and they are both fantastic people. So no Karen here. But she did sorta have that look that people associate with the stereotype. I asked the lady what she was doing poking around my truck, and she gave me a side glare while demanding to know where I got it. I said I just bought it a few weeks prior. She rushed up to me and said I didn't buy it, I stole it. I told her no, I purchased it from the title owner, so that makes it mine. The lady then rifled through her purse to pull out a smartphone and scrolled through it. And then she showed a photo of a truck in it. I looked at the truck in the picture and I'll be a monkey's uncle, it was the same truck. The license plate and scratch on the hood were clearly visible. And there was also a man in the photo. The same guy who sold me the truck. When I acknowledged this, the crazy lady started yelling "See! See!" and then demanded I return it to her. She held her hand out for the keys and kept saying to give it back. I told her I bought the Silverado fair and square off the guy in the photo. And that it is my truck now. But she didn't let up. She went and sat on my bumper and called the police. She was heavily exaggerating while talking to the operator. Or dispatcher. Or whatever they call the person on the line when you call 911. I'm not sure. She refused to get off my truck, so I decided to just wait it out for police to show up. When police got there, I stayed completely calm, but the crazy lady went off and started working up tears and saying that her truck went missing some time ago and she finally found it. Then she demanded they arrest me for grand theft auto and get her truck back. I just calmly unlocked the doors, got my insurance card, registration, and license to hand to one of the officers. I told them to just check my documents, and they'd see I am the legal owner. But the crazy lady did not stop. She tried to run to the door of the truck I'd opened, but I relocked it before I shut it. And she tried repeatedly to pull on the handle while telling the police to just arrest me already. One of the officers calmed the lady down while the other ran my information. He came back after a few minutes and said everything checks out. The crazy lady looked a British word I like to use that I think can best describe the moment. Gobsmacked. She said that it can't be, and demanded the police check again. Then pulled out her phone to show more pictures of the truck. I pointed out that the man in one of the photos was the one who sold the truck to me. And I have no idea what relation the crazy lady is to him. But he's the only person I bought the truck from. The police asked her who it was, and she said it was her soon-to-be ex-husband. They were going through a divorce. I pointed out when I bought the truck, her husband's name was the only one on the title. The crazy lady yelled at me that he'd originally bought it for her. And it was missing one day after she came home. All I could do was shrug and say I did not know that. But her husband was the legal owner before me. And I bought the truck from him. The police told her that I was correct. And it is legally my truck now. The lady went from crazy to just very sad as she cried that it was her truck, and he sold it without her permission. I did feel sorry for the woman, and said to the police that they may want to do a wellness check on her or something. They said I was free to go and they would handle the situation from there. When I was getting ready to leave, the crazy lady yelled that she was going to follow me and find out where I live. But the two officers didn't let her do so. I left the parking lot and hightailed it on the highway out of there. I later contacted the guy who sold me the truck, and he admitted that the crazy lady is his soon-to-be ex-wife. She cheated on him for the second time, and it was the final nail in the coffin for their marriage. The truck was always in his name only, and that woman had signed a prenup when they married. So the divorce was not going in her favor. It's been months now, and that lady has not found me again. So I'm probably in the clear as long as I avoid the area I bought the truck in. Though for all I know, she's not even living there anymore since her husband divorced her. Edit: many have pointed out the need for new plates and paint. So I've started putting money off to the side for that. Considering the heat, I may just paint the truck white, as that color is better under the sun and I like it. I've already ordered a home dent puller kit to try and undo some of the dents on the body myself. I'm not sure if I'm gonna pay to have the truck painted, or try to paint it myself. Doing it DIY style sounds interesting, and I hear there's kits for buying everything you need to paint a vehicle for a little over $100 online. Either way, I should have the truck repainted and with new plates eventually. And hopefully if I ever run into the crazy lady again, she won't recognize me. Update: not sure who will see this update. I don't think I can really make a separate post about it since it's not long and doesn't involve anyone entitled. I discussed with a friend about the crazy lady and my truck, and he suggested a home paint job using spray cans. At first I thought it was weird. But then he showed me videos of people painting cars and trucks with these big spray cans that have high pressure and a wide spray. So we went out and I bought a bunch of those tall cans of primer gray and gloss white. We took the time to PDR remove as many dents as we could using hot glue and a slide hammer I ordered and recently got in the mail. Then sanded the truck with a rotary sander before painting it. And I have to say the results are pretty good. I spent about $100 in paint, 5 cans of primer, and 5 cans of white paint. You can't even tell it's the same truck anymore. And the white color should help with the heat where I live too. In time I'll get new plates for the truck. And then hopefully the crazy lady will never notice me again. Funny thing is that after my parents saw the truck in its new paint, I got a request to paint my dad's old car as well. He banged it up a fair bit over the last 20 years, and thought maybe a new paint job would be nice. The car was already white. So why not? He paid for the paint. My friend and I did some more PDR, sanded the car, and gave it a fresh coat. The front seats were also pretty torn up. So my dad bought seat covers that I put on after sewing shut a few tears. My dad couldn't be happier with the end results. So I guess everything has kind of worked out for the moment. I'd like to thank everyone for all the creative advice I got in this post. It gave me new ideas. And though it's been over 2 weeks, I hope some of you see this. Thank you. This is just wild. Have you considered a paint job to help conceal your truck? Yeah. I've considered new plates and either repainting or replacing the hood someday. I'm not gonna use the term Karen to describe this person because I know 2 women named Karen, and they are both fantastic people. Very true. The women I know called Karen are the nicest people I know. And yet, I have known my first Karen since babyhood, and while she's slightly improved, but she was born to be a Karen in the worst ways. That just nuts. Yeah, she seemed like she had a few screws loose. But she didn't even make the top 10 of entitled crazies I've seen in my life. She didn't try to physically assault me, or act like I was an employee somewhere, or try to use some form of bigotry. I've seen and heard it all. She was just sad and crazy. I honestly hope she got mental help. Not a wild story like this one, but Hubs bought a nitro fishing boat, a real beauty. We were hundreds of miles from dealership fishing, and guy pulls alongside us and asks if certain hidden spot hit scratch. It was his old boat. He had traded it in from place we bought it from. Guy told him all about it. Our encounter was very pleasant. Sorry yours wasn't. Well, it's a small world sometimes. You never know who you'll run into. Wow, this is wild. Glad the police held her back. But sincerely, when you have the means to do so, please consider looking into therapy. The whole story makes it sound like you are planning a lot of your life around this fear of another disaster. I have some sympathy for the crazy lady, but not a lot. Yes, her husband bought the car for her, but it was her responsibility to see whose name it was in. Yes, her husband sold it from under her, but she had no right to demand you give the car back to her or threaten to follow you. And if she really is the cheater he said she is, then she's really racked up some negative karma. I'm not in a relationship right now, But I've always said cheating is a deal breaker for me. Update to crazy lady being the former owner of my truck. Well, I ran into that crazy lady again. But this isn't going to pan out quite as you might think from the title. I made a small update in my previous post about how I'd repainted my truck white. Well, in the time since then, I did also get new plates. Before painting, I pulled some dents and DIY repainted the entire truck for cheap using high-pressure white spray cans. A friend helped me gloss coat the truck for cheap too. The Silverado looks good, if not inconspicuously normal. Most I tell can't believe it's a spray paint job. With the new look to the truck, I figured the odds of me ever running into the crazy lady who previously owned my truck again were practically nil. But I guess it's just too much of a small world. However, this time I was more of a bystander to the main event. I was back in the same area I'd previously encountered that crazy lady in. Only this time I was helping a friend's brother move on Saturday. He'd bought a foreclosed fixer-upper house and was moving into it after having made a few renovations. My truck was fully loaded and towing a trailer. And it took 2 trips to get everything. My friend's brother was also transporting stuff in his own car as well. As part of the deal, the brother bought us lunch. I suggested the diner I ate at least time I was in the area. And so we went. The food was as good as I remembered. And we had some good fun talking and eating. But when we were nearly ready to go, that's when the crazy lady entered the establishment. I recognized her almost right away. She looked just the same. Was even wearing similar clothes. Only this time she had a small dog inside the purse tucked under her arm. Not sure of the breed. When she went to find a table, one of the employees told her that as they'd told her the last time, they do not allow pets unless they're service animals. Crazy lady said her dog was a certified ESA, but the manager with a deep groan said that as he'd previously told her, an ESA was not the same as a service animal. And therefore not an open pass to bring it anywhere she so pleased. Then said she could not dine in so long as she had the dog with her. She made a big scene of saying she was being discriminated against, and that she needed her ESA doggo. But the manager was a rock and told her to either order food to go and wait for it outside, or don't get any food at all. Crazy lady yelled that this was outrageous. But I guess in that moment she finally realized how much she was embarrassing herself, and did actually order food to go. And the manager reminded her one more time not to bring the dog in again before she went out the door. I pointed out to my friends that was the crazy lady I previously told them about. And they both laughed and said no way. I took the time to recall the past incident before we paid our bill to leave. As we went outside, the crazy lady was out there loudly talking on the phone with someone. I don't know who, but she was very irate. And she was letting her little dog poop in the greenery just outside the diner and didn't pick it up. As we were walking past her, she locked eyes with me. But she didn't seem to recognize me at all. She just gave me a distressed sounding "What are you staring at?" before I just excused myself by saying nothing at all, and kept walking. She watched me walk all the way to my truck and get in it. And she did seem to stare at the truck and me for an uncomfortably long time before finally going back to talking on her phone. I drove away to go back for the second load and that was it. Kinda mundane, I know. But that's what happened. I'm actually very glad she did not recognize me or the truck. It seemed like she almost did. So I guess my new paint job worked just fine. Crazy lady still crazy. Truck improved, skills improved. Guess you won the war. I would've called the diner on my way out and let the owner know she let her dog shit everywhere outside their establishment, just for the cherry on top. No wonder she didn't remember you. You remember her because she was completely bats hit and that sticks in your memory. But to her, that's just her everyday self. You don't stand out because she's been having a different crisis every day for 8 months. You just blend in with all the other men that have passed through her life with the same look of exhaustion and something approaching pity. I just finished reading your original post. What a scene. So glad the police were calm and didn't fall for her theatrics. Are you in Southern Oregon by any chance? Besides that, we had a totally devastating fire in 2020, the whole truck story sounds exactly like something that would happen here. What was the line from the Avengers movie? You can smell the crazy on her. Him in the movie, Loki, that is. I just read the original story. Wow. And I'll bet that was never her truck, she just felt entitled to it. Oh, and the best time of year to buy a trailer is usually in the fall-winter, after hunting season is over. I was looking into buying one. But now I'm aiming for a house instead. That way I'd have a better place to store one if need be. My parents have no room at their house. And if I had a house, I wouldn't need to pay to rent a storage unit anymore. Entitled coworker finally got his due. 5+ years ago, I worked in an office with a coworker, EC, that always one-upped you. If you had good news, he had better news. If you had a crappy weekend, it was nothing compared to his. A coworker came in looking distraught, and we finally coaxed it out of her that her mom was recently diagnosed with malignant breast cancer. EC overheard, and suddenly his dad was diagnosed with penile cancer and a heart attack on the same day. If looks could have killed, he would have melted through the floor. A bunch of people went to HR after that, but in true HR style, he was too important, we can't prove it's false, blah blah blah. Nothing ever happened. We knew he was full of it and there was no way half the stuff he said was true, but it wore you down. About 5 months later, we were talking about our weekends on Monday. I casually mentioned that my nephew took state in both grade and weight in a recent wrestling tournament. Who shall be overhearing but EC? He swoops in, says, my nephew has plenty of wrestling medals. I bet he's not as good as mine. What's his name? I want to pull up his ranking. I gave him the name because EC had jumped with both feet before I could tell my other coworkers that he's been nationally ranked since he was 6 for both grade and weight class. I also didn't say that he had recently accepted a prestigious invitation to wrestle for an international wrestling club with a number of Olympians having come from the program. Winning state was a pre-qualifier to the program, but everyone knew he would get it done. I didn't know they posted stats for 4th graders online, but sure enough, he pulled him up on the office computer. It only took a minute before he closed the window and tried to change the subject. A small crowd had gathered at this point, so I grabbed his keyboard and with Ctrl-Shift-T, I reopened the window promptly. I don't know enough about wrestling stats to tell you how good he was, but others apparently did and were freaking out about his stats. I knew he was good but was apparently a savant or something. Lest we forget, people then started asking about EC's nephew and his stats. EC was floundering and trying his best to backpedal, but no one would let him. We searched with his last name and got no one that it could be. EC then started saying it was his nephew on the other side. EC had bragged about being related to the governor, so we knew what name to search and still, no one the right age range to be his nephew. Suddenly EC yelled that he was in 2nd grade, so it wasn't online. My nephew's stats were online from 1st grade, so that was BS. Next came, he lives in another state, but that didn't matter as he was quickly shown wrestlers from other states, clubs/leagues, AMD even genders. EC's face was turning every shade of red before he finally stormed away yelling something about harassment and going to HR. HR did reach out, but we pointed out the blatant hypocrisy when others filed complaints about him. A strongly worded email about unity, being a team player, and respect in the workplace was sent around. That everyone ignored. I stayed there another 10 or so months before I moved. EC still tried to insert himself into conversations and one-up everyone, but all it took was someone saying, "How did your nephew do in wrestling this weekend?" and he shut up. LOL. If you told him you went to Tenerife on holiday, he would have been to 11 Tenerife. Your nephew is the one to watch apparently. Keep us up to date over the years. Yeah, but I bet you didn't shut him down as quick as I shut my entitled coworker down. Actually, I shut down 2 entitled co-workers in one day. By the way, I'm just messing around y'all in case it wasn't apparent. So glad you finally got him on something, but HR though, they don't seem very reliable. There was a guy in our friendship group that was like this. Claimed he worked on a Nobel Prize winning project, a scientist that worked at the same hospital as him won, he was accepted into the astronaut training program, but couldn't do it for some reason, etc. So we decided to catch him in one of his whoppers. We started talking about the fantastic concert we'd been to a couple of days before, I think we said Aerosmith, and just played up how great it was. He, as expected, chimed in that he was there, knew the band, partied with them after the show. I'll give him credit that he took it with good grace when he got busted. Didn't make him stop doing it, though. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.